What is up, me breadwin? Francis D. Williams here from Vivid House Studios. And welcome to this tutorial where we will be achieving this today. Okay, so we've got quite a lot of stuff going on here. We've got 3D text flying in from off the screen with a bit of an echo on it, paint splattering as it lands, and a bit of a shadow forming as it's coming into land. So yeah, quite a few techniques. It's just a little bit of fun, and it just covers quite a lot of bases, I think. So let's get creative. Okay, so here we are in After Effects. Let's start a new composition, and 1920 by 1080 is fine. We'll call this render. Click OK, and we'll start another new composition. Call this one titles. Same settings, that's fine. And now we're going to get the text tool and write some, oh my bad actually. Before we do that, we're just going to go up to the composition settings. I want to change the background to white. That's fine, because we're going to work off a white background with black text today, you know? So we'll change this to black. You know, mix it up a little bit. Okay, cool. Right, I'm going to type B for my first layer. We're going to type I for the next layer, do an N, an S, an I. Oh, no, sorry, that should be a P. Sorry, that's my dyslexia coming through there. Jumble up letters sometimes. So P, R, I, P, I, E, and D. You'll probably notice this with my tutorials if my spelling's a little bit jumbled, but we get there in the end. Right, so that's all the letters we want. We'll just align that. So go over here and press your align tool to get it to the center. And then with all the layers selected here, we just make them 3D layers. Go on to my first layer, B, and solo that. And now I'm just gonna press P for position. And we're gonna jump forwards about 2 seconds or so, and just adjust the position, your end position of where you want it. Now, you want this one here, your Z position, to be the same on all of them at your end position. On every layer, it needs to be the same, okay? Because they're all gonna be landing basically on the same 3D plane. We don't want them going off on at different depths or anything like that. And so just tweak these. Right, just hit R for rotation, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of an angle, and that's looking pretty good. By the way, if you hold Shift and press another command, R for rotation, S for scale, just going to scale it up a bit there, give it a little bit of size. Yeah, when you hold down Shift, it brings them all up together. So when you're happy with that, I'm going to set a keyframe there in your position, move back to the start, and then we're just going to tweak these, bring it right out. You can also pull the arrows, and I want it to come out through the middle of the screen. So about there looks good. Nice. Now I'm just going to select the keyframes, hit F9 to easy E them, and then we're going to go into the graph editor here and select speed graph if it's not already selected, and we're just going to pull this point across just to give it a nice sort of motion. It just makes it look a little bit smoother. Okay, so next, if you click on your first layer, hit U to bring up your keyframes for each individual layer, and then set your marker to the end position and rearrange all your letters to make sure they are where you want them to end up, like so. And voila, as if by magic, there they all are. And what I'll do is I'll just make a couple of them a bit different to mix it up a bit, make the S a bit bigger, and rotate the R 180 degrees, why not? There we go. Now I'm just going to select all my layers except for the first layer and just drag them down a little bit, create a little bit of space there. That looks good. And then with the same layer selected, all your layers except your first layer, hit P for position, and then click on your keyframe to set a keyframe for all of them. And there you have it. That will be your end position for every letter, all set. So then we're going to jump back to the start, and what I need you to do now is just repeat the same process we did for the first layer on moving the positions of all your letters outwards towards the screen. They can come in from different angles, you know, just they don't all have to come from the same sort of plane. They can come from all over a place, make it a bit erratic. But what I'll do is I'll skip forward this process because we've done it all already and it's just a bit timely. So just tweak that for each individual layer, and also don't forget to highlight your 2 keyframes, F9 to easy even, and then jump into the graph editor, right click by the way to bring up the speed graph if it's not there, and pull your point across just to give it that smooth motion. Okay, next step, just drag all your layers along a little bit, a few frames, just to irregulate them on their entry, so they're at just got different start points, something like that. And Control A, highlight all your layers, right click, pre-compose, call it text layer, so we've got our texts. Control A, highlight all your layers, press Control D to duplicate them with the bottom layer of each duplicated layer, hit U to get up the keyframes, drag it along to the left to the point where it's at its end point, so it's in a stationary position, and then we'll go along to the end position of the above layer. T to bring up the opacity and set the opacity to 0. Go back a couple of frames, set it to like 70%, and then go back to the beginning start point and set that to 0. Okay, so it's got a gradual fade in. Hit S for scale. Go to your end point, set a keyframe, and then go back to the beginning and bring the scale right down. So it looks like it gets bigger. Something like that. Okay, go over to your effects and presets, type in Gaussian blur, double click on that to apply it to the layer, and go to your end position again. You set your keyframe to something like, I'm going to go 40, and then back to your start point. You want it blurrier, so the further away it is, the blurrier it is. So like 64, something like that, 65, and that looks all right. That looks all right. So what we want to do is repeat the process for every layer. So I'll just quickly whiz through that again. Doopy-doo, scoobity-bop-bop-boo. Oh yeah, and if you hear any grunts or weird noises coming from this end, apart from my scoobity-bop-bops, yeah, that's my dogs. They're very strange, very strange. I cannot control them. Whatever I do, no matter what I do, I just can't seem to control them. Right, so copy and paste your Gaussian blur effect from the previous layer. Click on the layer there and click on the effects and hit U, and that'll bring up your keyframes for whichever effect it might be. In this case, our blur. And then you want to move your keyframes along so they line up to your start and end position as previously done on each layer. Then you end up with something like this. So that's looking all right. Now we want to select all our bottom layers, the duplicate layers, one at a time, just rename them. So we know, we'll make sure we've got the right ones. I call them the same, but with a shadow. I shadow, N shadow, etc. You get my drift. Select all your shadow layers. Right click, pre-compose, and call this one Shadows. Okay, go back into your text layer, delete that pre-composition, highlight all your layers, press P for position, and now it's time to get messy. So I downloaded all these splats. Create your own splats, or you can use the link in the description below. So drag it, whatever splat you like, across. Go into effects presets, set a tint, and then you want to change the black color because we're working with black imagery. So I'm going to change that to red. Flip that around and position it. Now this is going to be behind the B. So just repeat that process again for every letter. and mix it up a bit, change the colors, change the types of splats you have. I'm just going to race through and do all that because again, a lot of this tutorial is repetition. Once you've done it once, you just keep repeating it for each layer. That's why it's a bit timely, but you know, the results are pretty sweet. So let me just whiz through and do that. And then you should end up with something like this. Splats. Now, select all your splat layers, right click, pre-compose, call them splats, and go back into your text layers, delete that pre-composed layer, don't need that. And here's why. We'll go into our render composition and we'll create a background. So right click, new, solid, call it BG for background, make sure it's white, click OK. We'll drag our title layer across. Drag our splats. Yeah, missing something. Oh yeah, so drag our shadows. There we go, not too bad. Next thing I want to do, go back into your splats. We're just going to start duplicating a bunch of splats and resizing them. I'm going to bring some forward in the position so it looks like they're kind of splatting on the camera. I just like make them blurry. Make them big, just have a bit of fun with it, just make it a bit more messy. With your foreground splats, you can add a bit of Gaussian blur to them, or fast blur, whatever kind of blur you want. Lower the opacity a bit, maybe about 60 or 40, just so they're just in the foreground. You're then going to locate the foreground splats, which are just your blurry ones. Wherever the little buggers are. By the way, look, one word of advice. Obviously, I haven't done it, but please just name all your layers so you know what's what. I mean, obviously, mine are all over the place, but I just work a bit erratically, and in my head, I know where they are. So, yeah, it's bad practice. It's bad practice. Normally, when I've got more time, I will name them all up. Anyway, there's my 3 foreground layers. So I'm going to bring them up to the top. Then we're going to create a new adjustment layer. So right click, new adjustment layer. And make sure that's below your 3 foregrounds. So I don't want to apply the effect on there. We'll go up to effects and presets, get to your turbulent noise, double click to apply. And now I'm mostly going to leave a lot of the settings on this, but I'm going to change the fractal type to swirly. Complexity about 6, that's fine. And then we're going to change the blending mode to overlay, reduce the opacity to about 60. And then we will go back to where your first splat appears and set a keyframe on the evolution. Then go forward to where your end splat appears. And just pull the evolution round a little bit, maybe about a quarter or so. And then you'll get this a little bit of a swirly effect in the paint. So it looks a bit oily. Okay, I've renamed all my layers. Now what we're going to do is go to effects and presets and type in Liquify. Double click to apply that to your layer. So we'll increase the brush size or decrease it, and then increase the brush pressure accordingly. Select your smudge tool. The little finger there, then you can zoom in and just pull each part of your paint. Now, however much you pull it out, stretch it, smudge it, whatever you want to call it, that will be your end result of how far it goes. When you're happy with how much you want your paint to move, go to the end of your video and set your distortion percentage. Make sure it's on 100% and set a keyframe for that. And go back to the beginning of when this splat appears and change the percentage to 0. Then we'll move forwards a couple of frames and set it to like 70 or something, just so it splatters when the letters first hit, and then for the rest of the duration it just runs slightly. Okay, so once you're happy with your paint running on a few different splodges, like so. We'll go back into our text composition and we're going to duplicate each layer. On your bottom layer, you're going to go effects and presets and search for echo. In your settings, change your echo time to minus 0.053. Change number of echoes to something like 45. then we can add a gradient. So I'd use a 4-color gradient or a 2-color gradient. It doesn't really matter. Like, I mean, it depends how much it slows your computer down. But what I do is I try and color it so that it's similar colors to the splat that appears behind it. So with the B, we got red, add a little bit of pink in there to make it a bit funky. Oh yeah, so go back into your echo, change your starting intensity to 0.5 and your decay to 0.5. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So then we'll just add a little glow to it. Change your threshold to change your radius to like 11. Keep your threshold at like 100%. Yeah, that's looking pretty decent. So then we'll go effect time, CC wide time, and we'll just change the forward steps to 2. Okay, now what you can do is duplicate each letter and copy and paste those effects onto your duplicated layer, and then just change the colors accordingly to whatever color they are. Just repeat that process with every letter to get your echoes. Once you've done all that, go into your main render, make sure everything's switched on, and there you go. You're pretty much ready to render out now. You can change your background if you like, add a different background. I tried giving that a go. Looks pretty cool. You know, if you also wanted to change your color from white, obviously just go up to your composition settings and change the color. So tried it in black. Yes, black is looking decent. All right, that's it from me today. I hope you found this helpful or insightful in some way. If you have, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, the bell button, all those buttons, whatever. Yeah, anyway, sorry if I've raced through this a little bit, but I got to go get me a burger, son, know what I'm saying? And you've always got pause, right? Safe. All right, peace out. See you later. Bye.